Alrighty, everybody, welcome into the Full Press Saints podcast. Once, once again, it is Alec and Dayton here, and we've just recorded our schedule breakdown. So now we're here to bring you guys the state of the Saints as we'll take a look at the roster after free agency, the NFL draft, and the undrafted free agent signing period is now coming on. So, Dayton, how you doing, sir? We just talked, but
Long time no talk, man.
right. So
Doing great.
great.
Thanks for asking.
Yeah.
Great to be back, obviously.
Not like you didn't go
Pumping
anywhere or
these
anything.
episodes out. Exactly, yeah, no, literally. Yeah.
So let's talk about this Saints roster really quick. We'll do the offense first. Go to break for our nice, our kind sponsors. That ended with the defense. So start with this offense, right? Of course, as we know, look, obviously Drew Brees is gone.
Yes.
Not gone, but he retired. The Saints also released Manuel Sanders. They released Nick Easton. They, terminated Jared Cook before his deal before he was set to hit the free agent market. They let Josh Hill go. Josh Hill ultimately retired. So this is an offense that it's going to be different this year, right?
Yes. Yeah, for sure. It'll be different. And, of course, different quarterbacks, so different offense. Now, who that quarterback is the question, right? We talked about this kind of opening for when we talk about the schedule. We really hope it's Jameis Winston. Don't know what's going on with Taysom Hill. Is he really going to be? Is he training to be quarterback? Is he still going to be a gadget player where he best fits? But when you look at this roster overall, and the offense included, even though the Saints had a lot of changes to this, especially compared to what's been going on over the last few years with the consistency of this roster, the Saints still have a top 5 player in multiple respective positions, and on offense, 3 for sure, you could argue 4. They have a top 5 running back with Alvin Kamara, top 5 wide receiver with Michael Thomas, top 5 right tackle with Ryan Ramczyk, and then you could argue they got a top 5 left tackle with Teron Armstead when he's healthy. So, I mean, that's 3 to 4 top 5 guys, and you can guarantee Teron Armstead is a top 10 left tackle in the league. I think Eric McCoy...
I was about to say Eric McCoy, yep.
Eric McCoy is a top 10 center in the league, interior lineman, period. So, I mean, you still have guys who are in the tops of their respective positions, and here on offense, the only, I think, glaring thing outside of that is, wide receiver 2. Is it going to be Traycon Smith? Is it going to be Marquez Callaway? Is it going to be Deontay Harris? Obviously, I like him in the slot, but I also like Traycon Smith in the slot. So it's kind of up and down. Getting Quan Baker as a playmaker is going to be great, I think, for this team if he's able to be utilized correctly. You also got Lil Jordan Humphrey, Jawan Johnson. I mean, you got names of young guys who can make impacts on this team.
And they played last year, too.
Exactly, and they got experience with this team. One guy I do like not seeing on this roster for wide receivers is Austin Carr. He comes back way too much. I know he has experience. Tommy Lee, yeah, I don't think he's ever coming back. I hope not. I think hopefully that ship has sailed. But I said that last year too, and sure enough, he still came back. So, but other than that, I think the only other glaring issue is going to be, I guess, or a question mark. It's not really an issue, but tight end. Is Adam Troutman ready to take the full load? We saw flashes of it last year. The Saints obviously signed Nick Van Nett as well, but he's going to be filling in that Josh Hill role, which that means he's going to be utilized in the red zone and for the blocking game quite a bit.
Yep.
So I like what they did. I like the thinking behind it. But the biggest question mark is quarterback, for sure. But when you have multiple top 5 guys in their respective positions surrounding said quarterback and one of the best possession receivers, route runners in the entire league, and Michael Thomas, who has the best hands, I said it, he has the best hands in the NFL, it makes it a lot easier on the quarterback. So, especially with a veteran like Jameis Winston, who I hope will be the starter. He's been working out like an absolute monster this offseason, and I really hope it's going to be him giving the nod. But overall, for this offense, I'm pretty satisfied with it. I got to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, and as you mentioned, outside of quarterback, probably the biggest glare would probably be, wide receiver 2?
Yeah, I think so.
Wide receiver 2 and tight end.
Yeah, and even tight end, we know who we're going with. I don't know who's going to be the starting wide receiver 2 when the season opens up. I don't. I know who's probably going to be the starting tight end, and I know who's going to get a majority of the snaps. It's going to be Troutman, and then with Van Nett right behind him. Wide receiver 2, is it going to be Traycon Smith?
I think it will be.
I don't know.
I think it will be Traycon, in all seriousness.
He's just so up and down.
He is, and and the thing about Traycon that kind of got my hopes up on him is Nick Underhill put out a really nice piece, right back when the offseason started about how Traycon coming out of UCF was one of the best deep threats in the nation. Well, obviously, when he came to New Orleans, obviously, that isn't part of the offense with Drew Brees and that arm, So you're thinking maybe now you get a guy who can chuck a ball down the field. Maybe this could be the big year 3 breakout for Traycon Smith. That much like the Trey Hendrickson who had a breakout year last year.
Right.
Well, he was year 4 technically, but.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would like to tell you it is Traycon. I really would like to tell you it is Traycon, but at the moment we just truly do not know. And the fact that New Orleans, they drafted. Sorry, they drafted K'Wan Baker in the 7th.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that and there was word that they wanted Terrace Marshall in the 2nd round, and then the Panthers jumped them. So maybe they're confident with the group of guys they have right now, which having confidence in a player and then putting the best players on the field to help you win are two different things.
Right, exactly.
Hell, I got all the confidence in the world that Tim Tebow is going to light up the NFL as a tight end. But he ain't going to.
Right.
He's not going to help me win. So it's going to be interesting to see and with New Orleans, with Sean Payne's offense in particular, it's funny because there never has been a true wide receiver 2. All his players are based on personnel packages, and every play you see like 3 or 4 guys rotate in and out every time.
Right.
So the ability to not really have, a true wide receiver 2, 3, and 4, like in a traditional depth chart order, it's just a matter of, okay, in this personal package, I want Deontay, Traycon, and Mike Thomason. And this one, I want Traycon, Deontay,
right,
Baker. So
yeah, got a lot of different talent as well, which I like. The only thing that worries me about Traycon Smith, especially with the really good receivers we've seen in the 2nd, 3rd, even 4th round. 1st round included somewhat. But these guys are able to find their footing in year 2, at the very minimum. We saw how great Justin Jefferson was last year in year 1. Traycon Smith has now, he's entering this is his 5th, because he was drafted in 18. So 18, 19, 20. So this is his 4th season with the team.
Yep.
So he's had 3 years to kind of show us what he's got, and he's just had, limited playing time, partially because of injury, partially because of, Emmanuel Sanders coming into the fold was taking a lot of snaps away from him, which Emmanuel Sanders is a much better, I think, X receiver than Traycon Smith. But yeah, Traycon Smith, a great deep threat, touchdown getter. He has one of the most or some of the most touchdowns among wide receivers in the limited playing time that he's had over the last few seasons. So I do like that about him, but I don't know. This is a season to prove he's got to step up. I want him to be that 2nd guy because I think talent-wise, he is the best. But just has too many mishaps. His route running just needs to be refined, and he's going to be able to have to create more space. Because when he's able to get separation, it's game over. So, but Deontay Harris, man, also by the way, Deontay Harris, by far top 5 return man in the NFL. There's another top 5 guy on the offense. So
yep, and we saw glimpses of him as a deep threat, over the last couple of years. So, he's a guy that maybe you could see. You would assume would get a lot more involvement with the offense this year.
Yes.
Alvin Kamara, Latavius Murray. Also, they brought back Ty Montgomery, who has the experience of playing both wide receiver and running backs. Maybe they've a more prominent role for him in his offense.
He walked so Travis Etienne could run.
Exactly right. Oh, Urban Meyer's crazy. But yeah, so this offense on paper, I like it. Now I just really don't know how confident it's going to look on the field.
Yeah.
So
right, you never know with Pete Carmichael calling the shots. Obviously, he shares that load with Sean Payton. I'm sure Sean Payton has more influence on the offensive play calling and schemes than Carmichael ever will.
Oh, yeah.
But you never know. You never know how this, and first year without Drew Brees and, ever. So, and for a lot of you guys listening, this is the first time you're going to be watching the Saints without Drew Brees as a starting quarterback in your entire life. So, welcome to that era. Because if you weren't around for the Aaron Brooks era, then I don't know what to tell you. You're in kind of for a surprise. So
it's definitely going to be different. Different is the word I would use.
Yeah, and I think that's what also makes Teddy Bridgewater such a legend for this team is that that's one of the first time Drew Brees has missed such an extended amount of time with an injury, and Bridgewater he killed it. Even though it was mainly the defense that won us those games. If you want to break it down. Bridgewater going undefeated in his time with the Saints like that is just incredible to me. So, and the way that Panthers fans are now treating him after he gets traded to Denver and then says the comments he said about how the coaching staff didn't prepare enough for the team, it makes me really sad that he's just being thrown under the bus by Panthers fans. So, bums me out. But, I interested to see how this quarterback game will play out for the Saints. That's the biggest question mark here.
Yeah, for sure. And as you mentioned, the Saints, I would feel a lot more worrisome about this offense if the fact that, Mike Thomas, when healthy, arguably a top 5 receiver of the game. Alvin Kamara is a top 3 back in the game. Ramczyk is a top 2 right tackle. Eric McCoy is easily a top 7 center in the NFL.
Yep.
Terron Armstead is a top 5 left tackle in the NFL. So they have pieces there. Now you're just going to... And Sean Payne mentioned it when Drew Brees retired that, the Saints and the players are not going to... The impact is going to be in the offseason.
Right.
Because Drew Brees was the guy who motivates the players. He's the in there, first one in, last one out. Stays after practice, does the extra work with the receivers.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be different.
When you look up preparation in the dictionary, there's a picture of Drew Brees right next to the word. He is the guy who prepped for that.
Yeah. So now in the offseason, it's going to be guys like Mike Thomas and Alec Kamara who have to step up and be the voice for this offense because. Right. And kudos to Jameis, because Jameis is working out with these guys. Him and Traycon, Jawan Johnson, Tony Jones, the running back.
Yep.
And Trotman, yeah. So they're all working out together, and it's like they're working out. They're doing yoga. Jameis seems to be a guy who's fully committed to this offense and to this team.
This is a prove-it year for Winston too. He's again on a 1-year contract. A lot of incentives. So, I'm sure in the back of his mind, it's the money aspect. Because if he does really good, he earns the incentives and gets more money. But in the front of his mind is, hey, if I ball out this year, it's the pride thing. And, hey, I can land a starting quarterback job with a decent team next year and sign a long-term deal and either finish my career with them or, be able to prove my worth and be a good starting quarterback that continues the longevity here in the NFL.
And change the narrative of my career because...
exactly, yeah.
Yeah, because, And here's the thing: when Jameis was a free agent, the Steelers offered Jameis Winston more money,
which is crazy,
to go be their backup behind Big Ben. And Big Ben, say what you want about him, but he's a Hall of Famer quarterback. Right. Mike Tomlin, say what you want about him, but he is one of the better coaches in the NFL to learn from. So for him to take less money to go sit behind Brees and Peyton, that's the Harvard, and I think it's the Harvard education of quarterback play. Learning from those two. So,
right.
Yeah.
Good on him. And now he gets to be the guy who can probably pass down some knowledge. Last thing I'll say about this offense, too. I like the depth we have, especially here for the offensive line.
Yes.
You got Will Clapp, Calvin Throckmorton. You got Landon Young, who was just drafted in the 6th round of the draft. And then James Hurst, who has been on the team for quite some time now. Also Ethan Greenidge, who the Saints have kept around for the better part of a season and a half now. So I dig the depth. Wide receiver depth and running back depth is pretty good too. So overall, when you look at this team, I think they've constructed it the way they want to. They've been thrown some curveballs, but I think they've been able to still keep everything quality. I think this is a quality offensive roster on paper.
Yeah. Yeah, could not agree more. So with that being said, let's take a quick break, and then coming up next, we'll get into the Saints defense. It carried the team last year for some moments. Can it do it again? We'll talk about it next on the Full Press Saints podcast. Alrighty, guys, welcome back to the Full Press Saints podcast. Alec and Dayton here. Let's talk about this defense here, Dayton. This is a top 10 defense last year. I think we both know. I think we both know what the obvious glare is on this defense. So let's wait on that. Let's talk about the rest of this defense, what they did in the offseason, throughout the draft in particular, the undrafted free agency pool. What did you think about what the Saints did?
Well, yeah, and it's tough because obviously I like the guy that they got for that hole you're talking about, the glaring hole for the team.
Mm-hmm. So do I.
They drafted what they needed to draft. Okay, the first 3 picks all go defense. So they knew what they needed to address. It's just the order of them addressing it is kind of weird. Now, granted, that's just how the board fell. If Newsome falls to 28. That is just that would have made the draft right there. Like that would have solved their problems just right there, and then get a linebacker, get an edge guy later on. But they just went about it in the opposite direction I felt they would have. They go edge, linebacker, then cornerback, and they had to trade up for Paulson Adebo, who is in that now going to be competing for that second cornerback spot. And remember, Patrick Robinson is there as well. If he's healthy, he is supposed to be, he's got a pretty decent contract. He's supposed to be that guy.
Yep.
But he's dealt with injuries. I feel like he's better off as an interior slot guy, but he played outside with the Eagles and prospered there.
Played outside last year, too. Filled in admirably.
Right. Of course, Super Bowl champion there with the Eagles. But, again, when you talk about this defense, we have more top 5 in their respective position guys. Got a top 5 cornerback in Marshawn Lattimore, who, again, he's had his up and down moments, but I still think that he is my bias set aside, he's definitely a top 10 cornerback, top 7, okay? I think that he's top 5, and especially when you factor in the man-to-man defense.
Yeah.
I think you got a top 5 to 10. Again, he gets double teamed all the time, so its stats won't back up being a top 5 guy. But Cameron Jordan, one of the better defensive ends in the league, and getting Peyton Turner to either back him up or play opposite of him with Marcus Davenport, Carl Granderson as well. You got good depth there at the defensive end position, so I like how they went there. Also, I think you got a top 5 when you just talk about free safeties. I think Marcus Williams is a top 5 free safety in this league.
He is
a ball hawk. He's a center field guy. The Falcons traded up to get Richie Grant, who is a center field free safety kind of guy, kind of the same way in Marcus Williams. So that has value in it. It's not very common. Most of the free safeties we see in the NFL now are hybrid guys. They'll play in the box a lot. They'll kind of be shallow coverage. You don't see a lot of true free safeties anymore for whatever reason. I think it's because a lot of guys end up in college converting to cornerback. Because of their length, cornerback length has become a thing because of the Legion of Boom. But I think he's a top 5 free safety in the league. So you got some quality. Oh, and then, of course, Demario Davis, top 5 linebacker in the league. Fantastic guy. And you add in Pete Warner there. You get Zach Bond, who was a 3rd-round pick last year. You also have Caden Ellis. So I think the depth there for edge and for linebacker is decent. Now, will the starters be able to step up? Will Zach Bond step up for the role that he has? Again, he's more of a rushing linebacker. That's mainly what he did at Wisconsin, but he has the ability to play as a strong Sam linebacker. Pete Warner does as well, but and especially because of the way that he can cover tight ends. But he's right now listed as the starting weak side linebacker, and Demario Davis is the middle linebacker. I feel like those guys will flip. Because Demario Davis kind of thrives on the weak side, and Pete Warner can definitely fill in that middle linebacker spot. I think the only real glaring hole still is that cornerback 2 spot, but that's a big hole to still have that's just out there, It's like something that the Saints knew they needed to solve. Paulson Adebo may be the answer, but who knows? I don't know. It's tough, but I did like the selection of Adebo. Again, he's a lengthy guy, 6'1", just about. He's got some really good tape.
Really, just your prototypical boundary outside corner.
Exactly, which is what the Saints needed, right? And that's why I like Patrick Robinson going inside. But we already got a really good inside guy, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, who I think is a top 10 already, a slot cornerback, strong safety kind of hybrid guy. Definitely top 3 trash talker in the league as well. And that has some value to it as well. So, I like kind of how the Saints went with that direction. Because again, you're not going to pick Eric Stokes there at 28, right? You're not going to reach for, or Tyson Campbell, right? You're not going to really reach for a cornerback at 28. I think that's why they went with Peyton Turner, who's their prototypical edge guy, and they knew that was a spot they needed to fill after Trey Hendrickson left.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I wish they would have went about it a different direction. I wish they would have traded up 2 spots with the Browns, heck. I mean, what do you think that would have taken? I think all the Saints would have needed to do...
Maybe give up one of their thirds.
And maybe, exactly. They would... Because if you look at, in the 2020 draft, the Patriots moved up 1 spot to get Tristan Wirfs, and it only costed them a 4th-round pick. So the Saints are moving up 2 picks in the late 20s. Yeah, maybe they only need to give up a 3rd. Maybe they only need to give up a 4th. Give them 28 and... they could have given them probably 28 and 105. Or 28 and 98. Something like that. But I would have loved to have Greg Newsome there. I would have loved to have Greg Newsome.
I could not agree more. I mean, when I look at this defense, again, to me, the only outside glaring need would be corner 2. Maybe maybe interior defensive tackle. I mean, I love David Onyemata. Like, when the Saints paid Onyemata, they made their decision with Sheldon Rankins' future at that point. He was not going to stick around.
Right. As much as I would have liked him to.
Yeah, and I agree. So I'm happy he went to the Jets. But, I mean, you look at... I love the potential in Shai Tuttle and Malcolm Roach.
Yep.
And maybe Lorenzo O'Neal Jr., who just joined the team after rookie minicamps. Rookie tryouts. Whatever. Camp tryouts.
Right.
We'll see if he can stick around. But, the Saints have 4 solid edge rushers in Cam Jordan, Marcus Davenport, Peyton Turner, and Carl Granderson, which I really love the depth. Because that, even that it would allow you to kick Cam inside.
Right.
And you still have somebody to play on the outside who can cause pressure and get to the quarterback and create some kind of disruption. Pete Warner... The safe pick to me was Pete Warner. I don't understand why Jabril Cox fell to the 4th. To me, he was the best pass covering linebacker in this draft. He can't defend the run for anything, but he can run with people. So,
yes.
Pete Warner
going far into the 2nd round. I mean, it's just funny how these linebackers fell like that.
Cleveland had my ideal draft.
Yes, same.
Yeah,
oh my gosh, they got
Browns,
2 first-round prospects.
The Browns had my ideal draft.
Lord.
So I mean, look, outside corner. I mean, Paulson Adebo, obviously, he's a guy I think can play outside corner, but at the same time, I don't want to throw him in there in the fire like that. I mean, we saw Patrick Robinson for a few games last year hold down his own at corner number 2.
Right.
And I guess until they feel Adebo is ready, that would have to be the plan, I would assume.
Yeah, and Adebo could be ready off the jump. I mean, it's tough. The thing about the NFL is, like, cornerbacks typically, rookie guys, typically can start or at least get a lot of playing time in their first year. We see it happen kind of often, but they don't do very well. I mean, look at what happened with Diggs for the Cowboys a season ago. Dude gets the start right away. He was a first-round pick, and he gets torched all the time. Happens sometimes. You're going up against much better competition here. You're going up against some of the top athletes in the entire world instead of, some of the best wide receivers in the NCAA. It's a big difference, big jump up for them. And there's a lot to learn, a lot of stuff. And I remember, I mean, this is just me from playing in high school. Remember how much you actually have to watch out for as a cornerback. It's not just covering the guy in front of you, and it's not just covering the guy in your zone. There's a lot that goes on before the play. Cornerbacks need to pay attention to. It's a lot of watching the quarterback, watching the offensive line as well, so you know what play's coming up. So there's a lot to learn as a cornerback, and especially in the NFL. So Adebo, though, coming from, I mean, he's a high IQ football guy, physical, sometimes can be too physical, but he uses it to his advantage. He could be a guy who starts right away. We'll see, though. It's tough. It's really tough to start and play well as an NFL quarterback. Some guys are just thrown in and they get torched. And they don't look good, but sometimes that just has to happen in the NFL. So,
yeah, Could not agree more. It's going to be interesting.
Oh, we got a top 5 kicker as well. Even though he's up and down, we got a top 5 kicker too. So the roster isn't as bad as some of you people are trying to make it out to be.
No, but at the same time, I'm not ready to call this team a Super Bowl contender quite yet. No, we'll get balanced in the playoffs for sure.
Okay, and that's my question. When you look at this roster on paper, do you see them? Obviously, when we did the schedule thing, I think our records match up with them making the playoffs. I think that we both think that they are a playoff capable team. Are they worthy or able to play in the playoffs and win a game? Do you think this roster is set up? Obviously, playoffs are dependent on matchup. This is kind of a general question because they could play a team they match up fantastic with against in the playoffs and upset them. They could win the freaking division and get a home playoff game and lose because of the matchup. Just somehow if that ends up happening. Do you see them being able to
like it has happened the last 4 years?
I know.
Yeah, we don't lose at home in the playoffs.
Never happens to us, right?
Especially when we should have won.
Never heard of that.
No. I give this team. God, I give this team a win or two.
Oh.
Or two. I did say or two.
Oh. So they could be in the
title game. Could be. Theoretically, they could.
Okay.
It just depends how the rest of the NFC balances out. Because you look at Green Bay, they face so many questions, obviously.
Sure.
I mean, hell, you look at the NFC West, all 4 of those teams you can make a case for in the playoffs. You have Dallas, you have Washington in the East. And of course, you got Tampa in your own division who just won the Super Bowl and kept their entire roster intact. What else am I forgetting? North, South, East. No, I guess it's everything. Potentially the Bears, maybe? Because you look at what they've done. If Justin Fields comes in and plays, that roster to me could be.
Yeah, the NFC is so weird. I mean, that's the thing. We could see 3 NFC West teams in it. If it's the Rams, Cardinals, Niners, if they all play up to what they're supposed to.
Exactly.
You could see the Cowboys. You could see
Washington.
You could see. I'm not buying Washington yet.
I'm high on Washington.
Ryan Fitzpatrick just turns the ball over too much for me but then again their defense is just outstanding, so could be tough. Give me give me Washington over like somebody like
any
Minnesota.
NFC North NFC North
exactly.
team.
Exactly. Give me that. I mean, yeah, you're right. Chicago could be up there.
And Green Bay. We don't know what happens with Aaron Rodgers yet.
They're up and down right now, too, yeah. Like I said, it's still in the back of my mind when I think Green Bay. I'm like, yeah, Aaron Rodgers is going to play this year. But you bring up a good point in the last episode when you talked about Aaron Rodgers just sitting the year out.
Doing
He'd
Jeopardy.
definitely be that guy. I mean, this is a man who cut off ties with his family.
Yeah.
Whether that was on his part or not.
It was on his part.
I think it was on his part.
It was on his part.
Based off of. So, I mean, if he does that, then he could definitely. But granted, his family did start it, but then also the Packers did start this rift as well. So he could be a guy. He's the kind of guy who, you know what, I'm going to finish.
He holds a grudge.
Exactly. So he could be a guy that sits out. So it's up and down, but NFC is kind of a mess. AFC, because that's the thing. Most of the years, when you look at playoff construction and who gets in, who gets out. Usually the AFC is really top-heavy, and then they kind of falter past that. And the NFC is kind of just good all around. They have 1 or 2 really, really good teams, and the rest of the teams who make the playoffs are quality guys who can, face upsets. I think it's going to be opposite this year. I think you're going to have a couple of really good teams at the top of the NFC, and then it's going to be a hodgepodge.
It was opposite last year, too.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the AFC. The AFC is like the Western Conference of the NBA.
They're exact. Now they are. It used to be the NFC was.
Yeah.
But now they are. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
There are so many teams that are going to be fighting for those last spots, and you could look at them and go, I could legit make a case for all 4 or 5 of these teams to be in the playoffs.
Right.
Or you could even go, hey, that team could go win the Super Bowl for all we know.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
Regardless, I do see the Saints winning a playoff game, and then it's up to, who knows from that point on.
Yeah.
That's just fate and destiny guiding us at that point. What about you? Do you feel like they can win a playoff game?
I think they can win one playoff game, yeah. But it depends on who they match up with, and then I don't think it's anything after that. Now, this is us saying this on May 18th, 2021. So if they end up winning, like, a bunch of games and we come back, then it's like, yeah, of course they're going to be able to win a playoff game. But right now, as we're looking at this roster and what we know from this team, I think they could win one. But
I agree. That's fair.
That's it.
That's fair. Special teams wise, actually we had to talk about special teams because for the first time in a long time, Thomas Morstead is not going to be punting for the Saints this year, which is crazy to think about. Great guy, great teammate. Now it's open competition. Although Morstead, they stashed the punter Blake Gilliman?
Yep.
From Penn State, right?
Yes.
Yeah, they stashed him all year. Probably because I just felt so confident about him going forward as being the guy. And I think even Morstead gave the shining endorsement on his way out.
Right.
So, Will Lutz and Gilligan, along with Deontay Harris, and I would assume either Ty Montgomery or somebody else handling return duties. But Zach Wood's still snapping, so the crew's together for the most part.
Yep.
So, yeah, that I believe that is just going to about wrap up this State of the Saints roster breakdown. Any last words or anything else you want to get out there, Dayton?
No, I mean, like I said, we got a lot of guys who are really good in their respective positions, especially compared to the rest of the league. We got good depth in some positions, but also some question marks. So it's going to be interesting to see if those question marks are still big question marks by the time we reach the bye week, or if they have been solved by then and this team is better than we're thinking. And again, we don't think this team will be bad by any means, just not as good as they have been in the past. So, yeah, I'm excited to see this season play out, see what this roster can do.
Yeah, could not agree more, guys. Well, that is going to wrap things up here. Guys, do not forget to follow us on Twitter at SaintsFPC. We'll have these episodes dropping momentarily. We'll have plenty more, along with some articles coming out for you guys. So, from Dayton and myself, that's going to wrap things up here. We'll see you guys next time.